Hello, everybody. This is the San Francisco Open Mic Poetry Podcast TV show with John Rhodes and Clara Sue. And today we are having as featured poets Rafael Jesus Gonzalez and Bill Mercer. Clara will go into more detail about Bill in her segment. And Rafael Jesus Gonzalez, I saw at an old Berkeley Poetry Festival, and I actually sort of met him a few weeks ago, and he got the Lifetime Achievement Award at the Berkeley Poetry Festival. Was that last time?
Yes.
Okay, so it was just a little while ago. And he is a teacher, and he's an activist. He has a blog. He has an email list. I'll try to put the blog address scrolling underneath, so I'll put that there so they can find you there. I can't remember whether the address is simple enough. What is the address?
rjgonzalez@blogspot.com.
So RJ Gonzalez, Rafael Jesus, so it's RJ Gonzalez at blogspot.com.
With a Z.
With a Z? Okay, with a Z. And so what would you say about yourself? Any signature statement about you as a poet that the public might want to know, Rafael?
Nothing that occurs to me.
Okay.
I'm here.
Well, what I see about Rafael, he has the romanticism of a Latin poet, and I have heard some of his poetry. And it does have that romantic thing, and I like that. And so I guess what we'll do is we'll fade from this shot, and then we'll switch the cameras around, and Rafael can read his poetry.
Buenas tardes. Good afternoon. I was born and raised right on the border of the El Paso Juarez area. And consequently, I am heir to two muses who speak two different tongues, and more often than not, they will speak to me simultaneously. So my poetry is in two languages, single word works, discrete works in two tongues. It is my custom, following the tradition of my ancestors from the Central Plateau of Mexico, from Tenochtitlan, to burn a little sweet smoke, copal, sage is more convenient for these occasions, to invoke the gods that what I may say is not in blasphemy, but from ignorance. I would the politicians would burn a little fragrant smoke before they spoke. I think that all readings, and actually all things, should be started with a blessing. I think the world is dying for lack of blessing more than anything else. Bondadoso es el sol, bendición en caso de duda. La hierba veraniega crece pieles de miel en las colinas, orgullo de leones durmiendo bajo el sol del solsticio, cómodos y contentos, completos. Sea así contigo, indeciblemente seguro, sabiendo que bondadoso es el sol, creándose a sí mismo en ti, como campo de hierbas en flor, hasta que ya madura, estallen semillas, mensajeros emplumados esparcidos, cada una recuerdo que eres amado. Gracious is the sun, blessing in case of doubt. Summer grasses grow, honey pelts upon the hills, a pride of lions napping in the solstice sun, easy and content, fulfilled. So may it be with you, unutterably sure, knowing that gracious is the Son, creating himself in you like a field of grasses in flower until they, full grown, burst into seeds, feathered envoys flung afar, each a token that you are loved. Several years ago, actually, in 2005, I was invited to read a paper and give a reading at the World Congress of Poets in China, in Tanshan, China. And I labored over what I would say to my fellow poets from around the world, most of whom didn't speak either of the tongues, which I do. Driving back from New Mexico that summer, this is what I came up with. Si no hablamos para lavar a la tierra, es mejor que guardemos silencio. Lo al aire que llena el fuelle del pulmón y alimenta la sangre del corazón, que lleva la luz, el olor de las flores y los mares, los cantos de las aves y el aullido del viento, que conspira con la distancia para hacer azul el monte. Lo al fuego que alumbra el día y calienta la noche, crece nuestro alimento y da ímpetu a nuestra voluntad, que es el corazón de la tierra, este fragmento de lucero que quema y purifica por bien o por mal. Lo al agua, que hace a los ríos y a los mares, que da distancia a la nube y a nosotros, que hace verde los bosques y los campos, que hincha el fruto y envientra nuestro nacer. Lo a la tierra, que es el suelo, la montaña y las piedras, que lleva los bosques y es la arena del desierto, que nos forma los huesos y sala los mares, la sangre, que es nuestro hogar y sitio. Si no hablamos en alabanza a la tierra, si no cantamos en festejo a la vida, es mejor que guardemos silencio. If we do not speak, to praise the earth, it is best we keep silent. Praise air that fills the bellow of the lung and feeds our heart's blood, that carries light, the smell of flowers and the seas, the songs of birds and the wind's howl, that conspires with distance to make the mountains blue. Praise fire that lights the day and warms the night, cooks our food and gives motion to our wills, that is the heart of earth, this fragment of a star that burns and purifies for good or ill. Praise water that makes the rivers and the seas, that gives substance to the clouds and us, that makes green the forests and the fields, that swells the fruit and wombs our birth. Praise water that makes the rivers and the seas, that gives substance to the clouds and us, that makes green the forest and the fields, that swells the fruit and wombs our birth. Praise earth, that is the ground, the mountains, and the stones, that holds the forest and the desert sand, that builds our bones and salts the seas, the blood that is our home and place. If we do not speak in praise of the earth, if we do not sing in celebration of life, it is best we keep silent. The Call. This one I will read only in English for the sake of time. What can I say to entice you to defend the earth? Remind you how the sun feels, the taste of salt, the smell of bay, a cricket's chirp on a summer's night, the rainbow after rain. What it is to love? Shall I appeal to your joy or to your fear? Earth can be terrible in her storms and in her quakes, but she is the measure of any paradise we will ever imagine. You and I will die too soon, but that life will now go on is beyond accepting. What can I say to make you love life enough to act and raise your voice in her defense? And that's the place where we find ourselves today. And I am terrified and furious at the ungodly choices we have been reduced to in the empire this coming elections. Let us vote with full reason and choose as we may between death and more death. Thank you.
Thank you, Raphael, for your poetry. I'm going to read one medium short poem. The poem is called St. Joseph Sawing with Some Old Saws. So I'm going to torture you with an old saw. I asked my hippie friends for some clues. They remind me. Remember Peter, the rock? A big rock is a clue, all right. I wouldn't want to say the lack of clues indicates that something is afoot. Don't chop off my feet either. I would be clueless. A big round eyepiece cannot spot a crime through a telescope mirror, but who is to say what an alien would see through a tube? Copernicus was obsessed with a copper penny for his thoughts because he thought everything revolved around those copper pennies. Electric copper wires seemed to pick up his message easily. Heavy metal Norsemen just went south the other day. I have pet theories about the trails of not-so-petty sins when Joseph was the pet of Asenath, them touching encrypted like wrappers in Egyptian linens. I think it will be fantastic when the story comes out next year. It will be then that the earth will no longer be a pet fantasy of a pensioned child. All people will leave at least once in their lives to meditate and try to solve the ancient Patsy curse of damnation and Eve. We have these two big words, ordered universe. Where should we put them? Thinking of Darwin, she said, put them over there. Thank you, and Clara's segment is next.
Hello, this is Clara Sue, co-hosting with John Rhodes for the San Francisco Open Mic Poetry Podcast TV show. And today I have my good friend Bill Mercer as my guest. Welcome, Bill.
Thanks for inviting me.
Bill and I used to do a lot of duels together, and we discovered each other at Sacred Grounds and also at Clarion, where he would come in and play the shakuhachi. And so we did quite a few years, didn't we?
We did quite a few years, and we may do some more.
And
we also collaborated on some artwork.
Yes, and you are an incredible painter, and you had exhibited at the Lifeworms Gallery.
A lot, and other places.
Many times. You have more exhibition coming up?
Well, I have an advanced stage of this project that I'm going to entice you to take a look at. So.
Okay, sounds good. But right now, we're going to hear you read.
Right.
your poems.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to read 3 poems from my book, Windows and Doors. So I'm going to open 3 different doors. The first door is, the poem title is, What Opened the Door? What was it before the Big Bang, this great koan of the universe? It came from nothing, equals, it came from something. It was not a speck in space, because all space was folded within. It was not a possibility in time, because all time was coiled within. What was it? The telescopes close their briefcases and look for a different line of work. The computers break down into psychotic cannibals with a taste for silicon flesh. The physicist bleeds quantums and strings and theorems into his deathbed. The philosopher walks a tightrope tied to the end of a dead-end street, then boils his eyeglasses for lunch. The theologian speaks with a mouth full of apples and alligators, and the Zen master sits beneath a stop sign and winks with one glass eye. What was it? This thing, or no thing, beyond the end of human reach. This naked singularity to the trillionth power. This perfect unity of time and mass, space and energy. What was it? And why would such a perfection explode into this messy stew of matter and time, energy, weak force, strong force, dark energy, dark matter, strings, quantums, black holes, galaxies, supernovas, and antimatter? Was it something like a boredom with perfection? A need for the single to be expressed in the multiple? The loneliness of the one? What was it? And what opened the door? Okay, door number 2. Asylum door. In a distant time, when humans were still new to the earth, a man stood at the peak of a highland trail where it broke free of the close, entangling woodlands behind him, where he had spent his life. Ahead was a vast open plain, the infinite sky arced overhead, carrying the sun on its shoulders. He sniffed the crisp, pure air and gazed into the limpid vastness. Then he looked down at his feet, caked with dirt, and at his shadow in a puddle like antelope blood sinking into the ground. Suddenly he loathed this filthy earth with its mud and dust and dirt, with its slimy and slithery things and swarms of insects and vermin. He despised the blood and urine-soaked land covered with decaying vegetation and animal corpses. He thought, "The earth is beneath my feet, to be trod upon, pissed upon. This malodorous, foul earth is below. I stand above, separate. I did not rise up from this earth, engendered by male and female, locked into the lust of the night, like some dog or hyena." He thought, "I was conceived by a cool breath from the vast purity overhead and descended to earth to reign over all the things of the earth. The purpose of the earth is to please and support me. I am obliged to destroy all those things that do not bend to my will." It is with this thought that the Garden of Eden shut its gate and the door to the insane asylum swung wide open. As we tumbled down through the millennia, all the forms of human madness have passed through this door. All the megalomania and narcissism, the psycho and sociopathologies, all the disorders of the spirit. Now, as we stagger into this new millennium, bent over by the weight of history, we are no longer new to the earth. Our footprints through the asylum door are multitudinous and are traced in blood. The door is stuck open and the hinges are broken, never again to be shut for the massive torrent of humanity relentlessly tipping the scales of life against itself. But the door can be shut for a few. Truth seekers and lovers of life and the pure of spirit can shut the door and grow the garden again in their own lives. To shut the asylum door, you must first take off the cloak of many colors and step naked and awkward out onto the earth. You must greet and hug your sister cat, brother dog. You must ask Uncle Owl of his wisdom and Aunt Coyote of her knowledge. Then you must kneel down on the dust and the dirt and the mud of the naked earth. And with all the humility of your being, you must bend over, place your hands upon the earth, and say in your truest voice, "Thank you, Mother Earth, Father Earth, for my life." The door will close, the gate will open, and the garden will grow. And the final door here, soft door. The earth opens its soft door to all the sorrows of this world, animal sorrow, bird sorrow, the ephemeral sorrows of childhood, poignant adolescent angst, the ineffable sadness of lost love, the acute pain of wounds in blood, the intractable grief of a lost child, the slow, dry sorrow as age wrings out the towel, the sorrows of predator and prey, of tyrant and tyrannized, enter the soft door together, arm in arm. When my cup of sorrows overfills, I leave this cacophonous, constructed concrete world and go to a special place where the earth bears its breast. There I kneel and knock, and the earth opens its soft door. I enter the quiet dark and smell the moist, rich soil, fragrance of the living soil. And then I slowly pour my small cup of sorrows into the vast reservoir of the earth's accumulated sorrow. I listen as the hard-working worms tell me that sorrows are autumn leaves that fall leaf by leaf and are slowly dissolved by the torrential tears of winter rains. I listen as the roots tell me they feed on this tincture of sorrows and tears. They tell me that life feeds on sorrow and that sorrow feeds on life in an inexorable cycle. But that between sorrow and sorrow hides the improbable miracle of joy. I listen as the mystical mycelium tell me of life beneath the surface. It tells me that one day when I enter into this sweet, sweet earth, the soft door will close behind me. Then I will step out of time and join that cycle beyond dualities, beyond sorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill Mercer, for your reading. There was a big fire in our neighborhood, in the Mission neighborhood, not too long ago. And one of the beloved venues for poetry reading, the 3300 Club, was also affected. I don't think it was burned down, but they could not continue their business. So we had a benefit for Nancy Keene, who was the owner of 3300 Club, and I wrote this poem for that benefit. And this poem, 3300 Club, is for Nancy Keene. 5 alarm, flaming dews. The moon slips out from under the boat. 33 ran down the bone-dried street. Little monks mumbled, 0, 0. Emptiness is beauty, beauty, emptiness. Fighters hosed away slurred speeches, sad faces peered through bygone doorways, all boarded up. The Irish, little Nancy, it had to be you. Frail as paper, strong as steel, carries the load up Mission Street, motley memoirs, the smell of years. Common folks, uncommon inklings, live things move in uncharged spaces. Barley and potatoes keep the moon shining, spirits kicking, the barman singing. Chariots of fire greets monsoon rain, passionate verses simmer in wine. Discreet cantors initiate flames of love to howling desire. Fever, yes, fever burns the house down, while black enigmatic water makes its rounds, slithers through uncharted desert to be greeted by a rich man's junk. Come, seekers of words, pick up the pen and write, where language is oil and water sizzles on the stove of mind. Hot steam, cool vapors commingle, mobilize the train of thoughts, let loose in a gibberish tango, happen upon the mystic vial. Unlock prisons, 5 iron bars, drink now, deliriously step and dance. In the dreaming, there's no stop sign to fuse dawn's cracks with night's torrid heat. Now the union vaporizes, one plunges into the cerulean sea, the other surges upward with songs echoing in the crimson sky. Thank you very much for tuning in. I'm Clara Sue, co-hosting with John Rhodes for the San Francisco Open Mic Poetry Podcast TV show. See you next time.